This week, Channel Islands Pride is taking place in Jersey after Guernsey hosted it last year. Thousands will turn out to the parades, parties and concerts to celebrate and be proud of our diverse community. Ahead of the big celebrations, I caught up with 3 drag queens, Paige Three, Flesh and Bonny Bon Wee. 2 are full-time performers from the UK, hired for the weekend's festivities, while Bonny, known in the daylight as government employee Helier de la Haye, is Jersey-based. Together we discuss the drag scene and how it compares between Jersey and London, how far we've come with tolerance, and how far there still is to go. Why don't we start with names, ages, pronouns, both kind of your stage names, your drag names, but also your real names as well.
Cool, shall I start? So hi, my name's Paige Three, that's my drag name, and I'm 26. Out of drag, my name is Lewis Clark-Clare, and just a little London drag queen.
Awesome.
Over in Jersey.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Flesh. I am 23 years old. I'm also based in London. My out of drag name is Ollie. I use she, her in drag, and then like he, they out of drag. I'm very much flexible. It just depends on how I feel and your attitude.
I'm Bonny Bon Wee in drag and Helier out drag, and I'm obviously based in Jersey. Yeah.
And your pronouns?
She in drag, he out drag.
Awesome. Cool. And I'd be interested to know, do you guys have day jobs, or are you performers full-time?
I'm full-time drag now. I used to work in musical theatre, and that's actually how I got into drag. So, but no, I'm full-time now.
Cool.
She was an angel in Kinky Boots. Just to plug it on her behalf.
Yeah, wow.
I've been floating back and forth between the day realm, day walking, as I like to call it. I got a day job recently, and then I got so busy with drag again that I've been booked off for about 3 weeks. But it's a funny dynamic to kind of hold when you're working full-time in nightlife, because it's really part-time, but the preparation is a full-time job. Mm-hmm. So we kind of live this like very unusual on-off work week that not a lot of people understand.
I do a lot of TikTok at the moment, which is my videos try to incorporate the behind the scenes of what we actually do. Like, a lot of my comments that I've been getting recently are like, oh, we didn't realise how much work goes into you just being there at 1 o'clock in the morning to do this show. You know, I've started at 11 o'clock in the morning the day before doing my hair or like getting my costume rhinestoned or whatever it is. So it is very much a full-time job.
And I work as like an investigator for the government.
Oh, really?
No, it's really like, hang on a minute.
Investigator by day.
Yeah, and I worked in the prison before then, so it's
Sherlock
a very like...
Wow. How do you find that split between that?
It was a bit weird in the prison, I will say. Everyone was fine with it, other than a couple of people, but everyone's quite like chill. I've had like, some people say like, oh, if you do drag, maybe you won't be able to get jobs in these places and whatever,
really?
Which is a bit crazy in this sort of day and age. But
yeah. And how do you feel about that? Do you think that it doesn't, you can be a drag queen and you can do your job really well, and it doesn't affect?
I kind of like those two like complete opposite aspects of myself. I don't care what people think anymore. I think you get to a point in life where you're like, I literally don't care what you think.
I'm sure there's a lot of investigators with horrible, bizarre hobbies, and they just keep private in their bedrooms. It's like, our hobbies happen to be something that happens in public with an audience.
And posted on TikTok lines as well.
Exactly.
That's so interesting.
And ultimately that is none of your business.
Yeah. So why don't you tell me a bit about how you got into doing this? Was it something as a kid you were sort of into, or later in life?
Well, for me, drag incorporates so many things that I've loved for a long time, from makeup to I dance a lot when I'm in drag, and just performance aspects, and also just the kind of creative side and me being able to have control over what I'm doing. And I did, as I say, work in musical theatre. I started drag in Kinky Boots, and when that show actually finished in the West End, I wasn't really done. I was like, okay, I need to explore this a little bit more, and I started exploring it more over COVID in my bedroom, and then after COVID kind of hit the stages myself, and it kind of like took off. But as I say, drag incorporates so many things that I was doing for work that now I can do for myself.
Oh, great.
That
So
makes sense.
it was definitely something that kind of like quite naturally developed. It was just
Yeah, I feel like it's one of those things like the stars aligning sort of thing. I've done the different steps, and I've had different kind of career paths as I've gone through, and it's just ended up that this is what it's all kind of come to, and it makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I feel like all of those pathways that were all disconnected are joined at the top.
Oh, great.
You know?
Yeah, so it's like a proper like culmination of what you love.
Yeah, exactly.
That's great.
I feel like I had quite like an organic journey into actually doing drag as well, but mine came from the club scene. So I met my drag mother, who, if people don't know, a drag mother is basically someone who's like a mentor when you're first starting and introduces you to the scene, takes you out, kind of gives you those first pieces of advice that help you figure out what drag means to you. So I met my drag mother at my second ever London Pride back in 2019 through some mutual friends, and pretty much within 3 weeks of being friends, I said, I want to do drag. She gave me a look from like top to bottom and said, okay, I'll help you. And we like sat down together one night, and she's like, I'm not going to do anything for you, but I'll talk you through it. She's like, have you practiced? I said, a little bit. She said, okay, let's see what you can do. And then that night I went out for the first time in drag, and I've met so many friends from that experience, and I've learned so much. And for me, drag has always been something which is like intrinsically tied to a sense of community, because I've always done drag with other drag queens, with other queer people, like in mostly queer spaces, and if not in queer spaces, then with other queer people. So it's always been this thing that happens like together, and to me it's very much about like a sense of togetherness and a sense of understanding each other. And that's what's been really interesting transitioning towards being a like full-time professional drag queen, is that when it's your job you end up doing it all alone, and then suddenly you're the only queer person in a room, and it's like, wow, that's so crazy how my start, which was more about like just the joy and the creativity of it, was so entrenched in the sense of like togetherness, and the more it becomes serious, the more isolating it can be.
Oh, that's really interesting. I hadn't really thought of it like that. That sort of
Yeah.
once you do become a proper hired performer, it's, you know, maybe less about that community aspect. But
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear you had kind of a good journey into it though. And what about you, Helier? Was there a bit of a community here that kind of introduced you to it? Or?
Not when I first like kind of got into it, because
When was that? When did you first?
I kind of travelled quite a lot, like before COVID. I spent like 2 summers in a row going to LA and things like that, and kind of lived my gay life out there, because there wasn't much of a gay life.
It's the best
here.
place to do it, really, LA.
And then I kind of just came back with things that I picked up from there, and I liked. And eventually, once the Flair Entertainment shows started here, I kind of just went to them in drag, and I ended up in the shows, and then
You just walked onto the stage.
Yeah.
Just like taking part.
I was like, I can do the splits. No, but I mean, like, I used to do musical theatre and like singing and dancing when I was much younger. My mum and dad used to go to the Cosmopolitan, which was the only drag thing until it got knocked down. There's a big like finance building there now.
What a shame.
Yeah. But...
I also wanted to ask this question. I don't know who wants to take this, but so there might be some people in Jersey who aren't really familiar with what exactly is being a drag queen, and like, what is it, a performance? Why doesn't someone just explain as if someone didn't really know what it was to be a drag queen?
Oh, it's
So many aspects. It's a very broad question.
Yeah.
It's almost like asking what constitutes an artist. I think if we say drag queen, we often mean a professional drag performer who is practicing female illusion. That, I think, is a very broad, like, intellectual definition, in the sense that drag is basically any form of heightened expression that is influenced by gender, but that could mean more masculine or more feminine or agender, and it could be completely like through the middle or in the reverse. Like, it could not even be like a human thing, and that's what we call like a drag creature. So I'd say a drag queen would be someone who is doing this professionally, who is performing to some aspect, whether that be behind a camera or on stage or in a room. And then there's usually an element of femininity or hyper femininity or exaggerated femininity.
No, that was great. It was a really good answer. I think it's just helpful for people to maybe kind of, they've not really heard of it before, you know, of older generations.
Definitions definitely help.
Yeah.
I think another thing that helps is actually the more bracket of drag artists. And what comes under drag artists is so many different things. You know, like we're obviously in mainstream media now push drag queen, and that is something that everybody sees. But actually, a bracket of drag it's an art form, and as you say, people can do it professionally for work, but also drag is just an expression that can come into gender, but can also come into literally just being an artist and. You know, expressing yourself.
Yeah, and you've all said you've got into it because you love it or love parts of it, but what do you love most about it? What is most important to you about performing in this way?
I find it very, very liberating as far as there's a lot of things that, like you said, I actually keep myself, my drag persona and my out of drag persona quite separate, and there's a lot of things that I can install into Paige Three that I wouldn't necessarily do as Lewis, and I find that quite liberating. But also, as I said previous, like it incorporates so many of the creative things that I love, and that just makes it exciting. I can create spaces for people that are a bit of a fantasy, and when you come to see a drag show, like it is part of the fantasy. Like, you know, you're seeing somebody who's potentially got a wig on or whatever, and you can create this kind of illusion that excites people, and it brings a lot of joy to people as well. And I think that's the main thing that why we do drag is we make people laugh, smile, have a good time. We are the trailblazers of making people happy, and I think that's the most important thing that we spread as drag performers.
Yeah, no, it's so important.
I'll say just because of like the shows that we started, well, I didn't start them, I just joined them like a little afterwards, but that was kind of like one of the only like safe spaces for people, and that's kind of why I went in drag, because I was just doing drag in my bedroom. And then I was able to just go to those shows and like enjoy being around people that were like me. So,
So is that community aspect is like one of the most important things to you?
I definitely feel the fantasy aspect as well. I think a lot of it is about fantasy realization. I think especially a lot of the queer experience is feeling like your hopes and aspirations for yourself are unattainable, and drag is such a transformative art form. We literally have the ability to live those things out, live out lives and personas that like otherwise wouldn't be accessible to us. And I think especially we now live in a slightly more tolerant world where it's actually now possible for people who are queer to live out the lives they've wanted. But this was an art form that existed before, you know, queer people were widely accepted. Like, it's existed for a long, long time, and that's why it has this theatrical aspect. And like, it's ultimately a form of theatre as well. Getting completely engrossed within a character that you have invented and then performing to a room of people who are willing to go on the same journey as you, that is so freeing. It really lets you, you know, run wild with your own imagination. And I also find it quite cathartic. Like, you can really heal yourself. I think I specifically perform a lot of songs that were important to me, especially when I was younger, that meant a lot to me and, you know, spoke to me. And then to perform them as almost like a version of myself that I'd always pictured inside of me. It's like, it's a very cathartic, healing thing. I think that's also where the community aspect kind of comes together, is, you know, whether it's a hard emotional moment or it's a joyous, like, celebratory moment, that's something that through drag queer people can share and experience together.
No, that sounds great.
I'll just add to that, just because, like, when you create the illusion, for me specifically, I have really bad anxiety. When I create the illusion, it kind of like disappears quite a lot.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So it's quite powerful then.
It can be quite an escape.
Yeah. So I'll talk more specifically about this weekend's Channel Islands Pride Festival, but I wanted to ask just before that more generally about the scene and what it's like. So in London, I imagine it's quite different to Jersey. Why don't you give us a sense of how it's changed over the past 5-10 years in London, and then Helier, if you want to give us the same in Jersey?
So I would say, especially in the last 5 years, because of the rise of RuPaul's Drag Race, especially its international branches, we now have a UK-based offshoot or series. It's really changed the focus of British drag, especially drag in London, towards lip sync performance, whereas British drag and London drag was very traditionally like stand-up comedy,
Cabaret.
live singing, cabaret, and in general it was a lot more
Comedy
kind of,
things, wasn't it?
yeah, like
More of a
comedic,
jokey
kind
joke.
of raucous, very tongue-in-cheek. And there's like real institutions of drag like internationally in London, like the Royal Vauxhall Tavern, Two Brewers, like
Two
there's
Brewers, yeah.
the Admiral Duncan, like there's places where, you know, drag was being defined on a global level that are in London. I think those spaces are now some of the quieter venues where you go see drag, because this more American style lip sync based drag is kind of taken over.
And you mentioned how tolerance is kind of getting better. Is that something which
for
is
sure.
affecting it as well? More people wading into that space and just feeling quite confident to
I
do
think
that?
naturally, again, like going along with the drag race theme here, is that it's in mainstream media. People just naturally are being exposed to it every day, whether they see it, passing it when they're trying to find their documentary on Netflix, or whether they're, you know, happen to be watching MasterChef and one of our drag sisters who's been on the show is on that. You're just naturally more exposed to it.
Or on a bus stop.
Or,
You know,
yeah,
it's everywhere
it's
now.
literally everywhere. So as far as tolerance is concerned, people are just see it more, so it's not so shocking, I guess. But we still have some way to go.
still have-
You know, I travel, I live outside of London, and I travel into London on the train with a face on, and sometimes the looks are nice and they'll say, oh, your makeup looks lovely today, and sometimes they're not. And that just says to me, we've got a way to go still, but you know, we also have, we deal with it in our own ways.
I mean, we and many other performers in London have built careers off the success of and the popularity of drag right now. So
Yeah.
I think that speaks to
Exactly.
Well,
Right. To say that we're both doing it full time shows to you, I don't know if the amount of people that are doing it full time right now could have without the exposure of something like Drag Race.
And it sounds like you've got a good attitude.
Well, you know,
kind of-
I just look at it as work.
Yeah.
I'm going to work, and I guess I can tap into my theatre background here as far as I was so used to putting a costume on. I was so used to putting a wig and a face on for whatever role that I was playing in a show, that I'm still doing that. So I look at somebody and I get a weird look on the train, and I just think to myself, I'm going to work. Where are you going? It's Saturday. You're probably going to have a drink in the park, and that's lovely, but I'm getting paid today and you're not. So I just try to tap into that mindset and war orthodox back.
And yeah, hello. So what kind of scene is it here? You mentioned when you first started out there wasn't much, but has it changed? I mean, with Pride becoming a bigger festival.
I'd say the Flair Entertainment shows, which I joined, was one of the first ones that made it more, because it wasn't very prominent. It was like, I don't know, the 90s or the 80s that my mum used to go to the Cosmopolitan with my dad. And they really enjoyed it back then. And there's not really ever been like a proper, like, stable gay bar or gay place for people to go to. I think there was somewhere called Nikita. That was before I even was like aged to go out.
Name, love. Nikita can come back.
But yeah, there's not really any places to go in Jersey. That's kind of...
Yeah, so it's kind of down to the local entertainment companies
Yeah.
to create that space. And so have there been a lot more events and just performers recently that you've come into contact with here?
Yeah, I've done some like club gigs, just dancing on podium, which is always good when
Yeah.
you're next to a fan. Yeah, there's not much option, obviously comparable to London, but I'm trying to kind
Or
of
LA.
make it. Yeah, more LA there is.
Yeah, so and do you have the same maybe way to go with tolerance here that they sound like they have with London?
I always say Jersey's very like the 1950s. There's not many people that are like comfortable with themselves.
Yeah. Would you not feel comfortable like walking through town or something with your face on? Or?
I would, just because of like my policing background, my prison background, and different things like that. I feel like I would be comfortable because I've had like offenders shout obscenities at me whilst I'm in prison or outside of prison and whatever. So I think I would be comfortable with it, but people, it shouldn't happen anyway.
Yeah.
But people that might not be able to like help themselves in those situations, that is kind of, there's still a lot of issue. Like, and as I say, I had a work role when I was at the prison, and I applied for a role, and they said if you applied for that knowing that I do drag, I wouldn't be able to get the role.
prison background is helping you.
I think the sad thing there is that
Yeah.
you're saying that the reason that you would feel more comfortable is because you can kind of defend yourself, or you're more accustomed to it because that's the scenarios that you've been in, rather than you feel comfortable because it's a comfortable space.
Yeah.
And you don't feel threatened. That's where the problem happens here, is that people are, you know, if you're more likely to be able to defend yourself, you're saying you feel safer. That's the wrong way round.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
The place should be safer.
Yeah, exactly. And do you think that we're heading towards that here more and more, or we still got a long way to go?
Jersey's like, I don't know, 20 years behind like the mainland, and
Yeah.
obviously the mainland has its own issues, but I mean, like, yeah, I think there's a long, long way to go.
Yeah.
Let's see how much we can do in a weekend.
I was going to say, let's go
We just
to...
brought in
As
London,
gay as
baby.
possible.
I was going to say, hopefully we can make a few years' progress this weekend. So tell me about Pride. How important is it for performers like you to get a weekend to really, well, not even a weekend, it's more than that. It's a
few
full,
days, yeah.
it's a full-
Yeah.
So how important is it to have that festival where, you know, there's so much, it's a comfortable space. Is that right to say? And that you've got just this chance to just enjoy everything about
I feel like for me, you know, as I say, we're full-time drag queens, so we do this a lot. For me, in this scenario, it's less for, I'm going to have a great time. I'm going to love it. But it's less for my enjoyment and more to give the people who are coming to Pride this incredible show or this experience that they don't necessarily get every day.
Yeah.
You know, this is for them. And for them to enjoy.
Yeah, and it's great because the director this year has said that he wants it to be for everyone. You know, you can go if you just want to have a good time.
That's what Pride is.
Yeah, exactly.
I took my mum to Pride once.
Yeah.
She's not queer. She just decided to have a lovely day and have a glass of wine in the street with people
I think
partying.
that's
Do you know what I mean?
It's
And she
just
loved
becoming
it.
something where it's just, you know, a great time out. It's a great weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how important is Pride for you guys?
I think a lot of good can be done, like Paige just said. As much as Pride began and will always have its roots in protest, it also has this new modern contemporary meaning of celebration, and it is really, I think, our job coming to the Channel Islands is to help the local community kind of put on a prideful show, like, and that's not just on a stage, it's also as a community. Pride is about quite literally feeling proud of yourself, feeling happy, feeling peaceful, feeling safe and comfortable, and that's something that I think we can help kind of by holding hands and maybe leading the way a little bit and just showing that everyone can exist in this way. Like, Pride should feel utopian, and then usually you leave with a hangover but with a smile on your face, and you should be thinking, if this is possible, if only for a weekend or 4 days, this is something that we can work towards, and like that this is a feeling which is possible, and therefore, you know, it should be aspirational. Like, it's a good feeling, it's a warm feeling, and that's what we're kind of here to hopefully help with.
Definitely, yeah.
It's going to sound a bit crazy, but I'm going to be popping my cherry this weekend. I haven't been to Pride in Jersey ever. I've been to like loads of other Prides, as I say. I used to like live my gay life outside of Jersey, and now I'm just kind of going
Why
to be
is
here.
that? Have you just never felt it's really a space
Yeah.
before for you?
Yeah, I've never I felt comfortable. Like,
Yeah.
obviously drag. Bonnie's like almost 1 year old, so like that wasn't really
Yay, nearly
a
birthday.
yeah. So that wasn't like really a thing like before with the other prides. But like when I used to go to the other prides, I used to live my gay life outside of Jersey, and it's good to just kind of finally bring it into
So they're
Jersey.
combining to
Yeah.
Jersey and your gay life. And do you think, you know, it's getting bigger and bigger every year, I think, Pride, and more people, more performers like yourself are coming and taking part, and I don't know, is that exciting for you to see that in Jersey's happening?
Yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah.
It's definitely going in the right direction for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having us.
So why don't you just finally tease a little bit of what you're going to be doing this weekend over the festival? You know, what performances, what are you taking part in, what events?
Well, we've got a main stage performance which is going to be killer. We're doing multiple numbers at all these different events that are happening. We've got a brunch, FOMO Drag Brunch, which is happening
On the Sunday, and also an after party after our main stage performance on the Saturday evening. So if you don't catch us on the main stage, we'll be at the after party, and if you miss the after party, We'll see you on Sunday at brunch.
And I don't know about you, but I'm not repeating numbers, so I expect you all to be at all of them to see every single one of my numbers.
Our luggage was heavily overweight because we brought a show. So
29 kilograms in my luggage today, because guess what? I didn't bring one repeat outfit.
Please make it worth our while.
Paying those extra luggage fees. And is there anything in particular you're looking forward to seeing this weekend? You know, any other acts or anything?
I'm actually just really looking forward to, like, seeing Pride elsewhere. You know, we do London Pride every year, but I'm just excited to see it elsewhere and also just have fun, have a laugh.
This is actually the first Pride I've been to in drag. The last Pride in London, I was working at like events that were already booked out the whole day, and in fact I rarely saw any of the Pride happening. The year before that, when I was working in drag, I was working in Manchester on London Pride. So this will be the first Pride I'm actually kind of attending and being a part of in a meaningful way. So I'm excited to just see what that looks like.
Fantastic. And just finally, I think maybe for you as the Jersey drag queen, maybe what can we do in future? What can Jersey do to improve the opportunities there are for people who would like to get involved and sort of welcomed into this community?
Just create the spaces.
Yeah.
Someone with some dollar can think create those spaces.
Some dollar.
I
Are
guess.
those like literal spaces in terms of clubs or?
Even if they're just like community spaces. Yeah.
Give them the space and the dollar.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much, and I hope it's an amazing weekend. And thank you for coming.
Oh, it will
I'm
be.
sure it will be.
Hello. We're about to go off.
We need that confidence.
Oh,
Exactly.
yeah. And all you people out there, I think just to, like, go on to the back of what you were just saying as far as creating the spaces are also created by the people that come to them. You know, there can be a space, but if there's no one there, the space is not created, there's no community. Hello, everyone. Come out and have fun, go to these places, make the spaces yourself, because that is how community is created.
100%.
We'll see you there, Henny.
I'll be attending.
Thank you to Paige Three, Flesh, and Bonny Bon Wee. And thanks for listening to the Bailiwick Podcast. Keep up with all the latest news by visiting bailiwickexpress.com or reading our sister publication, the JEP. More next week from me, Kelly Frost, and the rest of the team.